Hi everyone, I'm Shane Stevenson, Director of Museum Collections and Curator here at the Buffalo Naval Park. And for today's video, while we're in our museum right now, we're going to be heading down to the third deck on USS Little Rock CLG-4, and we're going to be talking about the evaporators today and how the distillation plant of how they removed salt and microorganisms from the water to use potable water on board the ships. This schematic that you're currently looking at is a very basic schematic of the evaporation system to convert salt water into fresh and potable water. All right, this schematic comes from the USS Oklahoma City website, and Oklahoma City was a sister ship to the Little Rock, and she was CLG-5. So what we're looking at here is, again, the very basic schematic of the distilling plant and the evaporators. Now, the first thing to mention is that it looks like the 20,000 gallon drums would be side by side, but actually they are back to back, connected together with a rivet ring or a joint that's riveted together. So this system would actually be back to back, not side by side like you see here. All right, but we're going to keep that screen up as I go through the process here, and then we're going to head down to the third deck and try and locate everything that we're talking about here. So if you look, say in the center left, you'll see the phrase seawater in. So what that does is that brings the seawater in from outside the ship, puts it into an evaporator feed heater that's listed under the distilling condenser. That's the first process that heats up the water, because that distilling condenser also is bringing in water from the second effect evaporator, and it's pretty hot. So that condenser is cooling the water that's already gone through the process down, but it's also doing that first little heating of the water just coming in from the sea. You'll see after the distilling condenser that it travels again into a vapor feed heater in the first effect evaporator. All right, so now that's beginning to boil the water coming from the evaporator itself. It then carries through and gets deposited as a brine at the bottom of the first effect evaporator, and you'll see that that's in the green. All right, and that's really where the steam coming from the boiler, a little feed, auxiliary feed off from the boiler system, is really heating the water to about 400, or the brine, to about 490 degrees. These were double effect low pressure distillation units. So the low pressure means that they were able to heat the water at a lower temperature and get it to the desired effect without having to have the heat too high. So from the brine, it's beginning to evaporate and turn into water vapor, and it's collecting, again, if you're looking at the first effect evaporator, it's collecting in the vapor separators, which is like the orange part at the top. And then you'll see that it follows through with, say, the orange pipe into the second effect evaporator with another vapor feed heater. Now they're beginning to separate out the vapor from the brine, because you'll also see from right to left the brine is also carrying over into the second effect evaporator. Again, where it is heated to that 490 degrees Fahrenheit, you're again creating water vapor. The water vapor would be much purer than the brine itself. So those particulates, the minerals, the microorganisms are staying in the brine, while the pure water is moving up again into the vapor separator at the top of the drums. And on the second effect evaporator, that's where it says the baffles. So then what you have is you have a two piping system here to bring the water back into the distilling condenser. You have the water vapor that's cooling and traveling through that yellow pipe back into the distilling condenser, but you also have the first effect distillate, and that's coming through the blue and also going into the distilling condenser. So you have a two-step process here, boiling it, getting the water vapor in the first effect evaporator, but also boiling the brine again and getting off that other pure potable water from the second effect evaporator. Then it goes into the distilling condenser where the distillate comes out and it's tested for purity, and if it's good, now you've got usable potable water on board the USS Little Rock. They also had two auxiliary evaporators, which I will show you when we head down there. So they were able to do about 52,000 gallons of water a day at full strength, but we actually have two auxiliaries. Now, the USS Oklahoma City mentions that they have another emergency or auxiliary distillation evaporator in the Aft Engine Room, which we do have on board, and I can show you that. Plus, we also have one heading more towards the center port side of the ship, right next to the evaporator room. So we have two 20,000 gallon systems like you see here on this map, but then we also have two 12,000 gallon auxiliary or emergency evaporators that can do the same process in a pinch. All right, those aren't two, those would be one. So this water would be used for food, for showers, for cooling systems on board. Certainly if they needed some for the boilers, they would be able to use that. And they would test, again, they would test all the water when it came out of the distilling condenser to make sure it was pure enough. If you guys have any comments or thoughts on this, I know this is a basic schematic. If you guys have any thoughts, comments, did I not say something right? Please feel free to leave me a comment. I didn't go to school for blueprint reading or mechanical engineering, so there you go. All right, we're going to head down to the third deck in the evaporators, and we're going to show you a little of the system firsthand. Hi everyone, well now it's me, Shane, and Brendan here. He's the caretaker of the USS Little Rock, the new caretaker of the USS Little Rock, and we are on the third deck in the evaporator compartment, and we're going to be walking around and trying to identify some of those things that you were just looking at on that very basic schematic of the evaporators, the two first and second effect evaporators. Brendan, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, or,
Well, I'm Brendan Lindahl. I am the new caretaker here aboard Little Rock, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I'm a Navy nerd through and through.
You're a modeling nerd too.
I'm a modeling nerd too. I'm many kinds of nerd. But I have a real passion for naval history. I have a real passion for this ship in particular. She's the last of the Clevelands. And she was converted into Galveston class, but she remains true to her roots, a Cleveland class. So.
Nice. And we brought Brendan on board as a volunteer a few months ago, and he helped us remodel, and he did a great job of our Medal of Honor compartment here on USS Little Rock. And we just got to talking, and as he said, he's a modeling nerd, and he's been studying the schematics of the ship and the blueprints of the ship for, my God, 20 years or something like that. So
At least.
At least. All right, so he's a real asset. So to have on board, and he can identify things really pretty quickly. So it's wonderful having him on board, and we are going to be walking around and again referencing that basic schematic. So let's take a look here. Now, as I mentioned, in that schematic, it looks like the drums are side by side, but here actually in the space, they are back to back with a riveting ring joint, for lack of a better phrase, that connects the first effect drum and evaporator with the second effect evaporator. So we're going to see that. So let's take a look. We've got, let's say this is just one of the two that we see here. Here we are. Feed to first effect is listed right there. So it looks like it's coming from the drum itself and then leading through here, but and then it kind of disappears underneath. But what we see is this is the first effect evaporator here. We got the joint, then we have second effect. All right, and there's some sailor art with a calendar. It's probably too bright, you can't really see that, but there you go. He's doing the countdown calendar more than likely of when he's able to offboard the ship. So, where would we start here, Brendan? Where do you think we'd start?
Well, I think you try to find your your intake, obviously, right? You're bringing the water into the ship
Yes.
through your chest and the bottom of the vessel. So you try to look for an inboard. So I'm not too sure. I mean, we got a big one over here.
Yeah, let's take a look at that one because we'd mentioned that. So we do have, you know, it says feed pump.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that this is your inboard, your intake, right?
Yeah.
From a sea chest below, and then that's going to bring your water into the ship. And I think that the labeling might be off because this goes direct into this first
The
condenser
second
here.
effect, yeah, the second
so
effect
they
there.
might have the effects backwards, or it might be coming in here. I'm not too sure.
But we also have the distiller condenser over here. Now, if you took a look at that schematic, that shows, when it's labeled distiller condenser, that shows that's where the water would be pumped into this system right here. So, and then there's a pipe here that leads again right into the second effect evaporator. So, like, based on that schematic, this is where the water would be coming from to go through its first cycle.
Right.
Right, but we're not.
I'm thinking because that could be your supply after you condense it and you distill it and whatnot goes out. I'm thinking maybe you get your feed from here, and it comes in here, and it connects. It goes forward or aft in this case.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
It goes into the second, into the first effect, does its thing, gets condensed, goes through the first, that separates into the water, and then the brine would be the seawater.
Yeah.
And then it comes back aft here, aft in terms of what we're looking at, into the second effect.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yeah. And then, but yeah, again, I mean, it's very clearly distilling condenser. It's very clearly written on this schematic as being almost like where it says seawater coming in. So there's a little confusion there. So if any of you old salts that work down here and you're watching this video, if you've got friends, please let us know, because it's one of those wonderful little challenges here at the Naval Park. Is you see something in a schematic and you get down there and it doesn't really match up the way we think it matches up. Now, we could be absolutely wrong, and please let us know that in the comments below. So the distilling condenser, as you saw, was kind of like that first, it heats the water up a little bit because it's coming from the second effect that's already been purified twice, and so that water's still pretty warm. All right, and then it leads right again into the first effect. So let's check out the first effect again, which would be from this joint right here forward. All right, now we don't have a cutout here, okay? So we're not being able to see the vapor feed heater or the baffles, but it's a very intricate design in there.
Actually, if you come over here,
okay.
Number 2 evaporator, you can actually see.
You can see a little bit. Oh, yeah, okay.
So there's your pipes.
All right, yeah, so there's the piping, all right, that you see that probably is coming the auxiliary steam. And these pipes right here would probably start heating the brine. All right, so the brine is down here, and then it would evaporate. The water droplets would evaporate, and then it would head up and then be caught in the vapor heater feed in the baffles up here. Right, so the brine is down there. That's being fed the 490 degrees, boiling that brine. The evaporation happens, and you're coming up here, right? So again, back to back. All right. Now we have
another
condensate cooler.
Another distill would go in there, get cool. It would turn from vapor into liquid.
And then it could be either pumped out if it's brine, or be then the last part to then be used by the ship itself. Now here we're looking at the testers, right? We are looking at where they would test the water for particulates, right? So we've got the first, which would be over here, say the first evaporator, two unit. and then this would apparently be the second one.
The second one. Yeah.
So after everything feeds through, and it, as you saw on that schematic, the water would come here and be tested for purity, and then if it was good, then it would be pumped to the system that was using it at the time. Again, whether that's the the showers, the heads, the cooking, some would be fed to the boilers to be used. But again, this would create about, we use the Okie, again, as I mentioned, we use the USS Oklahoma City website. They said it's about 52,000 gallons, so we're looking at about, between these two evaporating units, we're looking at about 40,000. And now what we're going to do is we're going to head through that door right there, and we're going to check out the 12,000 gallon auxiliary.
Cross the P-way.
Yeah. Crossing the P-way. And here we go. So it says right here, number 3 evaporator. Great. Oh, yeah. There we go. Too much light. There we go. Perfect. There we go. Number 3 evaporator. So this is a smaller unit, but it does contain the first effect and... Oh, boy. It might not. It might just be a first effect evaporator.
Yeah, I think because it was just mainly used as an auxiliary.
Yeah, right. There you go. That it was to supplement. So here's that ring joint, for lack of a better phrase. Again, I don't. But so in the other ones, we would have seen it extend over here. But here, this is just the first effect. So it's doing a very similar system and process to purify some seawater, but it's just using the first effect. And maybe it's using it twice, right? Like maybe it's running the cycle twice here. But so this was the auxiliary. Again, these things are labeled outlet, maybe like something. First effect inlet. Again, cut, cannibalized. All right, and
Navy
then
doesn't like you to be able to restart things. So they'll make sure you can't generate steam or operate any of the equipment when they donate the vessel. So
yeah,
that's pretty much what that is right there.
Okay, so in addition to this, we also have an emergency evaporator in the aft engine room. All right, so we are going to head back there, and we are going to take a look at the emergency, or what they also call the number 4 emergency evaporator. So let's head over there. So we are in the aft engine room, which is not on the tour route, so you're going to get a nice little look. And actually, this is pretty nicely kept. It's well lit. A lot of the insulation and stuff is still intact, and I would love to start bringing people down here in some capacity, not on the general tour route, but in some capacity.
Curator's tour.
There you go, a curator's tour. I like that. So we're going to head between the two turbines here, low pressure turbines, and we are going to look at that number 4 emergency evaporator. Ready to head?
Sure.
All right. All right, you get a little. There you go. You get a. There's the reduction. One of the reduction gears. Here's another reduction gear. All right. So.
Stuffed here between the two reduction
yeah,
gears.
stuffed between the two reduction gears is number 4 emergency evap, as you see on that stamp right there. So there is some question about. Again, the Oklahoma City on their websites does not mention an emergency evaporator in their plans. Brendan and I were just talking when we were here earlier. Do you want to kind of summarize that conversation?
So yeah, I was a little confused. Obviously, as Shane said, I like to study booklet of general plans and schematics and all that good jazz. And as planned, as built, should be, this should not be in this space. It should be aft in its own separate space, because it was thought that it was too cluttered or crowded in here. And on Miami's Booklet of General Plans, which is what Cramp would have used to build their 5 hulls, Little Rock being one of them, it's labeled as its own compartment aft of here. So that it's living here, it kind of confuses me. Now, obviously, they change plans all the time, right? The Navy amends plans, shipbuilders will amend plans. It's not really required that you have to follow it verbatim.
Right, they learn from prior ships.
Yeah, what they can do, what they can't do, and obviously it's been here. It's original. I don't know if anyone could see that, but it's July 31st of 43.
Yeah,
was its date of manufacture, which lines up with when the keel would have been laid for Little Rock in 43, March of 43.
Yeah. So this would be an emergency evaporator. So we might actually, if all 4 systems were running, you would be able to produce more than 52,000 gallons. You might be looking at 52 plus another 12, which my math isn't great, but that's 64? 52 plus 12?
Yeah,
64?
sounds right. Yep.
64,000 gallons of potable water that could be used on board the ship. So again, we've got the 2, first effect, second effect, 20,000 gallons. That's the first thing we looked at. We looked at the 12,000 gallon auxiliary, which seems to be just the first effect. And I bet you this might just be a first effect as well.
Well, if you look at the builder's plate, it's telling me this is a 2 effect.
Thank you. All right, I didn't, yeah. Distilling unit, 2 effect.
So it might be, obviously it's going to be of different vintage than the other ones, because this is 43 and different manufacturers, the wartime, whatever, use what you can get.
So this this seems to be, at least from the manufacturing stamp, a 2 effect. Even though it's still about the same size, it doesn't continue past the joint, but... Right, so again, we've got the inlet, we've got the 2 cycles in there, the brine at the bottom of, the evap, the water vapor heading up to the top, going through the feed tubes. Oh, yeah.
Get a little peek of the feed tube.
Yeah. So that's where the water would be coming through and being boiled. All right. Okay, well, this is, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Brendan, say hello and goodbye. All right.
Hi and goodbye, everyone.
So, thanks again for watching. Sorry, it took us about 12, 13 days to film again. We had off for the holidays, then I had 2 teeth pulled, and I wasn't going to film during that. So now we're back, and better than ever for 2022. We've got Brendan here, who's a wonderful worker and a wonderful resource with us as well. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. All right, ring the bell, you'll get notifications. If you look on the right-hand side of your screen on a computer, you will see some suggested videos of ours. Please check those out. Or if you're on a mobile phone, it would be directly below the video. Check out our other social media. And again, we look forward to seeing you more in 2022. Thanks a lot, everybody, and we'll see you soon.